place is Oman, during the 6th century BC, when Malik bin Fahim al-Azdi led a 6,000-strong army of men to expel the Persians from his country. This was eventually achieved after several bloody wars, and during the reign of King al-Sasani Anu Sharawan, a treaty was signed between both parties. This stated that the Persian forces in Oman must leave within 1 year. It is still possible to see the ruins of a Persian castle today. It is located on the southern slopes of the Green Mountain, where the Persians hid to avoid capture by Malik bin Fahim and his men. The geographical location of Oman, with its diversity of natural geography, have provided its people with a rich environment that its people were able to harvest. These regions contain coastal and agricultural plains, high mountains, deep fertile valleys, and an extensive desert that borders other countries. The inhabitants of Oman have lived, built, and stabilized their civilization. The tales have differed on how Oman was named, but the sources point out that it was named during the 5th century AD. Oman has been known by many names due to its historical richness. During the Sumerian era, Oman was called Mejen, which means land of ships. It was later renamed Mazum. Another name that was given the city was Melucha, on account of its ancient commercial connections that are detailed in Sumerian texts. Additionally, it was called Juban, a name that often occurs in the writings of the governor Kudia in 3000 BC. The Greeks gave the ancient port and city of Samarkand the name Mushka. This was due to the importance of lafari, or as it is known in English, mir, a milky, sweet-smelling substance transported by ship to most ports of the ancient world. Myrrh and frankincense were highly prized commodities. The engraving seen here, purportedly written by Al-Thusad and describing the wreckages of the port of Samarkand, indicate that King Yazalt I, the king of a Leban state, established the city in the 1st Gregorian century. Behind the northern slopes of mountains where Mir was found, the road wound away into the distance. Caravans loaded with the precious milky material would meet at the gathering centers, such as this large area situated near the trees themselves. This is the tree from which Mir is taken. When the tree is picked and cut at regular intersections, it immediately produces a milky liquid that solidifies after a few days. People would come back every few weeks to collect this beautifully fragranced substance. The area of Shasr is situated near a barren desert. Its history can be traced back 1,500 years when it was a major export center for myrrh. During excavations, many pieces of pottery and tools were found. Indeed, some archaeologists consider it to be the center and source of dhafar, or myrrh, production and trade. The Majan civilization, situated to the north of Oman, near the western Al-Hajar Mountains, was famous for its brass industry during the 3rd millennium. The intricate nature of the artifacts discovered in this area indicate the enormous progress that these people had made in relation to the smelting and formation of the material. In one of the old brass mines near Sahar city, the diameter of the smelting base is 40 meters wide and 50 meters high. Excavations of oval-shaped graves in Bar, located near the city of Ebri, have unearthed a large collection of pottery tools and pots of different shapes and sizes. These ceramics are believed to have been fashioned circa 3000 BC, demonstrating just how advanced the ancient civilization of Majan was. Canals are a unique engineering feat of the Arabian Peninsula. The people of Oman dug water channels and extracted water from the valley beds for large distances so as not to be seen by their enemies. The water was then directed to villages and settlements. In Oman, there are more than 4,200 canals, demonstrating the engineering skills and capacities of its people in regard to their interest in investing in and developing their land. The castle of Bahla, built during the Dark Ages before the emergence of Islam, is considered to be one of the finest castles constructed at this time. Due to its historical importance, it is registered as a National Heritage Site. The large wall that surrounds the city has also been recognized in the same way. The castle gives us a significant indication of military architectural engineering, which was developed at this time and then emulated in the future by new generations of Omani builders. The Islamic history of Oman goes back to the 6th Hijri year, when the Prophet, peace and prayers be upon him, sent a letter with his friend Abi Zayd al-Ansari to Jafar and Abd ibn al-Jalanda, inviting them as well as the people of Oman to join Islam. In the name of Allah, most merciful and beneficent, from Muhammad, the Prophet of Allah, to Jafar and Abd ibn al-Jalanda, may peace be on those who follow your guidance. I hereby invite you to follow Islam. Convert to Islam and you shall find peace. I, in my capacity as a Prophet of Allah, invite all people. we shall warn those who are alive that they should turn to Islam, whilst those who are atheists shall be guilty of non-obedience. You must follow Islam. If you refuse, your governance will be weak and fail, and my troops will attack you in order that my prophecy may prevail in your kingdom.
حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر.
The people of Oman voluntarily converted to Islam. They participated in Islamic wars and helped spread the word of Allah in their relations with other nations.
الله أكبر.
This is Al-Mandar Mosque, the first of its kind to be constructed in Oman. It was founded by the Honorable Mazen bin Qadouba, who was amongst the first people in Oman to convert to Islam. The collection of documents and ancient Omani letters seen here exemplifies the great role played by the people of Oman in the scientific, intellectual, and religious movements from the time of the Islamic State. Famous contributors include Jabir bin Zayd, Rabi' bin Habib, and Al-Khalil bin Ahmed al-Farahidi. Here, in the library of the Ministry of National Heritage, the number of documents gathered relating to the sciences number more than 4,300. The ministry has released some of them in printed form. The location of Oman and the extension of its coastline, which is more than 1,700 kilometers, has impacted greatly on its people, making them pioneers of the sea and in the field of navigation. They knew and studied all sea routes and navigational techniques. As a result, they were amongst the first ancient people to use masts and sails. Indeed, they were once known as the navigational masters and seafaring lords of the Arabian Gulf, Arabian Sea, and the Indian Ocean. The voyages were aimed at achieving commercial exchange with other nations. The Omani merchants, sailors, and navigators were thus able to disseminate the Islamic religion and transfer their civilization to others living as far afield as Southeast Asia and East Africa. Sumerian tablets describe the people of Oman as being pioneers of the sea and expert shipbuilders. Here, in the city of Sur, the process of shipbuilding is done by accomplished workers whose skills and expertise have been passed down from generation to generation. Al-Ganja, Al-Boom, Al-Shwa'i, and Al-Baghla were all types of ships built in the port. The famous navigator Abu Ubaidah Abdullah Abu al-Qasim was the first Arabic sailor to journey 7,000 kilometers by sea from his native Oman to Canton in China and return. He successfully accomplished this in the 8th century AD. Here, 30 Omani shipbuilders have started constructing the Suhar, the ship that made the historical voyage from Oman to Canton all those centuries ago. They are using the very same materials that would have been used at that time. The navigator Ahmed bin Majid, who used to be known as the Lion of the Seas, played a significant role in developing navigational tools and instruments and wrote a number of priceless documents on these important matters. In the Navigational Museum, there are unique papers complete with special drawings about the seas that have been taken from the books of secret metals in seafaring. These priceless sources contain accurate astronomical schedules and sketches of instruments used in navigational practices. By the beginning of the 3rd Hijri century, the power of Oman extended to other regions of the Arabian Peninsula. Oman possessed a great military power at the beginning of the Islamic State. During the era of Imam al-Muhanna bin Jafar, the Omani navy consisted of 300 ships and number of troops protecting Nezwa was 11,000. The historical castle of Nezwa was built in 12 years. The height of its tower is an astonishing 39 meters. The castle itself has played a vital role in Omani history. Ancient Omani documents and letters suggest that during the era of Imam al-Salt bin Malik, al-Nasara al-Ahbash took possession of Socotra. The story goes that women from the island of Socotra besieged bin Malik for help, and he sent a group of 100 armed ships who succeeded in returning the island to its rightful owners. Omani sailors inherited the methods of navigation and travel as well as the skills necessary to steer ships safely through the often perilous oceans and seas. As a result of this navigational experience, the Omani people have been present on the East African coast since the 6th Hijri century and established the first Omani governance in the city of Bat. Commercial activities were also encouraged in East Africa as Omani settlers established their homes there and in other cities on the African coast, including present-day UAE. These are the remains of Bilaid city's mosque situated near Salalah. The ruins of the mosque indicate the presence of 140 limestone columns, a truly monumental feat of engineering and design. Bilaid was an important commercial port and city during the 12th and 13th centuries. Bin Battuta visited it twice and described it as being a great city that enjoyed fantastic wealth. This was a result of successful trading in myrrh, frankincense, and Arabian horses. Many explorers and sailors such as Bin al-Mujawir and Marco Polo mentioned the city in their letters. Today, however, all that remains of this once great city is its ruins. Nevertheless, there are a number of similarities that can be seen between the relics of the city and the ancient city of Qalhat, located near the city of Sur. The tomb seen here is the only testament to the commercial progress that the city achieved with the outside world prior to the Portuguese invasion, which destroyed many such cities. The castles of Al-Jalali and Al-Mirani are the only reminders of the Portuguese presence. They invaded the coastal cities of Oman during the 16th century, making it one of the weakest periods in Omani history. This is the city of Muscat, where there are two castles. The city itself was once a famous harbor, protected by a chain of rocky mountains and outcrops that afforded natural fortification to this important commercial center. The main portals allowed entrance into the city. It was made into the capital of Oman at the end of the 18th century. Al-Rustaq was a state in Oman that witnessed the election of Imam Nasir bin Murshid as Imam of Oman in 1624. This acted as a starting point for the unification of the country, the expulsion of the Portuguese, and the beginning of the Ya'arba dynasty. The Rustaq castle was built 4 centuries prior to Islam. It contains 4 towers that were built at different times during Omani history. The biggest, Al-Shayatin, or Evil Tower in English, stands 18 meters high. The Red Tower is shorter, 16 meters. Then there is Al-Rih Tower, and finally the modern tower. Omanis have always been linked to the sea. The war that occurred between them and the Portuguese exemplified this. Realizing that this was a first-class maritime war, the Omanis built up an organized group of ships that was to be the strongest navy in the Arabian Gulf and in the Indian Ocean. This is Sohar Castle, built at the beginning of the 14th century. It played a vital role in Oman's long history. An interesting feature is the existence of a 10-kilometer long tunnel, which was used as a supply line. The Portuguese themselves hid in the castle after a long siege until it was ransacked in 1643 AD. The only places that the Portuguese were able to seek refuge in were Matrah and Masqat al-Tabin. The Omani ships pursued and defeated the Portuguese so thoroughly that they managed to annihilate all their coastal centers in the Gulf and in the Indian Ocean. Their victories on the Gujarat coast, Yasin, Bombay, and Salt Island were a fundamental, empowering element in the advancement of maritime and military shipping. This is the Arabian Gulf, where its warm waters lap in shallow bays. The Gulf became a major center of activity again during the last part of the 17th century. Omani ships attacked Persian ports and various commercial shipping routes because they had started to coordinate once again with the Portuguese. They laid siege to Bahrain in an attempt to liberate it from the Persians. In the Ya'arba era, the Omani Navy consisted of a fleet of 100 large ships, each equipped with different weapons. Indeed, this was noted by the English historian Hamilton. Another English historian, Cobland, admitted that the Omani marine troops surpassed any other naval force to such an extent that even the English and Dutch ships were afraid to face them. When Locaire visited Muscat during the 18th century, he saw an Omani naval vessel equipped with 70 weapons. Mombasa, located on the African coast, represented the most important of all Omani victories. They wrenched it from the Portuguese on 14th of December, 1690, thereby heralding the end of Portuguese dominance in East Africa. The Omanis also succeeded in regaining the territories of Bimba, Kelwa, Bata, and Zanzibar. Here are just some of the many Omani castles built in Mombasa. The Omanis built around 500 defensive castles. They provided power and protection as well as tangible evidence of their wealth and prosperity gained through commercial activity. This is a fortified castle, which is considered to be one of the greatest masterpieces in Omani Islamic architectural art. The castle consists of a series of round arches fixed around columns, with 3 huge doors leading to separate passages. Weapons that could fire up to distances of 10 kilometers were released from special apertures inside the castle. Jibreen Castle, with its beautiful architectural art and unique engineering, is considered to be one of the most beautiful castles constructed during the Ya'arba era. It was to be yet another witness to the strong role that the Omanis were to play for the next 120 years. The state of Suhar rose to importance under Imam Ahmed bin Sa'id al-Busaidi, a particularly powerful ruler who managed to successfully remove the Persians from the area. The foreign force had occupied Suhar at the same time as they had undermined the state of Al-Ya'arba. Imam Ahmed also built many ships for both mercantile and military use. In 1775 AD, the port of Al-Basra, situated in the north of the Arabian Gulf, was surrounded by 30,000 Persian troops. The Arabic tribes of Al-Basra called upon Imam Ahmed bin Sa'id for help, and he responded by sending 80 well-armed vessels led by Imam al-Rahmani and Imam Hilal. Upon the ship's arrival at the beach, communication lines were cut, thus the Omanis could enter the beach successfully. Fierce fighting continued for many months until the Persians were forced to withdraw. This is a picture of Sa'id bin Sultan, who took control of Oman in 1804 and who ushered in the golden age of the Omani civilization in eastern Africa. Al-Sayyid Sa'id selected Zanzibar to be the place of his rule and the capital of Oman in East Africa. He transformed a small, insignificant island into a center of political, economical, and intellectual enlightenment. He issued the first currency in East Africa and was responsible for extending Omani influence as far as Mogadishu in the north, Delgado in the south, and from the Kingdom of Uganda to the west of Congo. The Omani existence in East Africa occurred after its liberation from the Portuguese. It also introduced an intellectual, commercial, and architectural element to the region. Features of Omani Islamic architecture can still be seen, still intact in Zanzibar today. It exemplifies the Omani skill in transferring their culture and industry to East Africa. After years of misrule and mistreatment by the Portuguese, the natives of East Africa welcomed the tolerance and mannered behavior of the Omanis and enjoyed the fruits of the Islamic religion. Thus, the merge resulted in a distinguished civilizing force in East Africa. Al-Mutuni Palace was named after Al-Mutuni River in Zanzibar. It was built on the order of Said bin Sultan to be his governmental base. The House of Wonders, or Al-Ajayib, as it is known in Arabic, is another palace of the Omani sultans in Zanzibar and yet another witness to the golden age of Oman. Oman is currently building a large mosque on Bimba Island to honor those who spread the word of Allah through East Africa. Islam was spread through the provision of scientists, schools, and mosques, of which there were 375 during this period of the Omani Empire. Omani cities such as Matrah, Masqat, and Sur were considered to be some of the most important ports during the reign of Said bin Sultan. Around 500 ships were built at this time, the most famous of which were the Tajbiks, Caroline, Shah Alam al-Imam, and Taju. The most important one, however, was the Sultana. This is a picture of Ahmed bin Nu'ayman al-Ka'bi, the first Arabic ambassador to the USA. Said sent him to America on board the ship Sultana that arrived in New York in 1840 after a 10-month-long voyage. The ship carried many gifts to the American president, 2 Arab steeds, some jewels, and an Omani sword decorated with gold. The ambassador Ali Nasser also sailed on the Sultana to meet Queen Victoria, reaching London in the year 1842. The carnation tree was first introduced to Zanzibar by Said bin Sultan. Indeed, Zanzibar and Bimba currently produce 90% of the world's carnation production. Omanis have always considered the African coast to be of great strategic importance, due first to the conflict with the Portuguese, and then later because they fought for their liberation of this region and founded an Islamic Arabic civilization on these very coasts. The Omanis have interacted homogeneously with the sea. They discovered the secrets of the ocean that surrounds their land. They understood the movement of the wind and how it could be used, in addition to developing navigational tools for their own and the wider world's use. Throughout history, the Omanis have contributed to the prevention of piracy in their waters and the expulsion of invading forces from their own lands, as well as those of the Arabian Gulf and the coast of East Africa. Their presence in ports and cities resulted in a cultural impact that greatly aided the development of these areas, and that can still be seen today. This is the Suhar ship that was built in the traditional manner to recreate the glory of yore. A trip can be taken in it, starting from Qasr al-Bustan Hotel, thereby reminding us of the maritime magnificence of Oman. In Sur, the Al-Ghanja is fixed to a platform, assuring all who see her that the importance of Oman's maritime history and shipbuilding industry shall never be forgotten. The Omanis have interacted during various historical stages with their environment and geography. They have built forts and castles as barriers against greedy invaders. Architecture still reflects the civilization of those ancient people as well as their heroic history. Each castle and each fort has a story to tell. In order to preserve their magnificent past, Oman has restored many of its castles and forts. Here are a group of Omani visitors to Nezwa Castle, learning about their proud history. Many tourists and visitors want to increase the number of castles that have been restored, as they contain a history that should never be forgotten and an honor that should never die. Here are a number of different Omani museums. Inside lie the relics and memories of ancient cultures and people who all contributed to the amazing civilization of Oman. Today, a new page in Oman's history is turning. Today, it is a modern country that has a strong infrastructure and a fast-paced economy. It has conducted huge projects and has developed a strong financial movement. Its society is active and homogeneous. Tourism is on the increase, and the number of industrial areas near the harbors is also rising. Oman has witnessed progress, development, and regeneration under the leadership of His Highness Sultan Qaboos bin Said. His Highness has enriched the fertile inheritance of Oman's history and culture while simultaneously guiding his country towards the future, ushering in a new chapter of prosperity and social and economic progress.